Hello, film freaks, and welcome to another edition of the KFS Film Session. DJ Zullo here with you a few moments after the NBA trade deadline came and went, with the Knicks doing nothing, basically standing pat, other than that Jericho Sims trade that brought in DeLon Wright. So the Knicks pretty much will have the team that is currently constituted for the rest of the NBA season, other than, of course, the pending return of one Mitchell Robinson. He can certainly be a big part in raising this team's ceiling. But of course, with Mitch, we don't really know until we see him out there. Good news that he has lost some weight. I've been promoting the Slim Mitch tag over on social media. He does look like he's in fantastic shape. So theoretically, that should lessen the impact on his feet and lower in his limbs in general to try to stay healthy. So hopefully Mitch can have a strong second half. And before we get into today's film session, do want to just say how much I did enjoy the Jericho Sims experience over the past several seasons. An athletic marvel, has real NBA skills. His offensive rebounding is legitimately good. His screen setting, fantastic. His impact as a roll man, really solid. His ability to move his feet on the perimeter is also a legitimate NBA skill. So he certainly has some things to fall back on. I'm sure Milwaukee likes some of the athletic traits that he has, specifically the offensive rebounding piece of it, which he could really impact a game in that way. It just, unfortunately, he never added enough offense to his game, and because he has some limitations as a 6'9", 6'10" center in terms of length, standing reach, in terms of protecting the basket, even though his rim protection numbers were really great from at the beginning of the year, did regress a little bit, but certainly a very solid rim protection year by the statistical output. Really not the sort of anchor on defense you want, but he's certainly a versatile defender. And I do wish him all the best. Now, one of the reasons why he may have been a little more expendable at the trade deadline has been the emergence of Ariel Hukporti, who, against the Toronto Raptors in the first half specifically, was a game changer on the defensive end. And I think there has been enough signs from the second round pick that he can be a potential piece to maybe not rely on for the rest of the year, but someone that in a pinch can certainly play NBA rotation minutes, which to me is a huge, huge development. And I really do believe that Toronto game in that first half, there were signs and there were things he was doing on the floor that are real NBA skills. He can move well. He's extremely well put together in terms of his strength. His effort level seems extremely high. He fits sort of the ethos of what Tom Thibodeau wants in a big, and he's got a little more offensively to his game than you might think in terms of his movement, his screen setting, his ability to play in the short roll, his finishing. These things are really adding up to a player that you can foresee becoming a real NBA rotation player. To get that player late in the second round is a huge, huge boon for the Knicks. So I wanted to isolate this Toronto game because, as I said, he was fantastic in the first half on the defensive end. And I think, not to fall prey to hyperbole, but it was one of the best defensive halves any Knick has played on the defensive end this season. Changed the game with his energy, his one-on-one ability to defend Scotty Barnes, his finishing at the rim on the other end, both sides of the floor. But the defensive end is where I thought he shined, and where I want to focus on. We will talk about the offense as well, because I think him playing in the dunker spot compared to someone like Precious Achiuwa is just a different thing. He can get up and catch lobs in a way that Precious can't. He can finish at the basket with force, with a dunk in ways that Precious can't. Precious usually needs a runway to gain momentum and have that ability to tap into that vertical game. Ariel Hukporti as a guy that's a little bit bigger, but also a guy that seems to be a little bit lighter on his feet in terms of going from a vertical standing still dunk to the rim. I think there might be a little more athleticism in that specific area, which will make him more of a threat as a lob player in the dunker spot, which is a value add for the Knicks. But really, the defensive end is where Ariel Hukporti was shining, and I think that's where we're gonna begin this session. Again, I think this is an important game to break down and really dive into, because I didn't just take the positive things. Now, to be frank, it was mostly positive, but there were also some things that were areas that he has to work on, maybe some limitations that he has as a defensive player that are worth considering as well. But as we will hit this first one, it was a lot of too big lineups that he was playing in, and I think for him that represents maybe his ability to play into space, but also lends itself to more navigation in space, in areas of screen navigation where he may not have all those aspects down pat, but certainly an area that we're going to focus on. So let's begin on this first possession here. And first thing you're going to notice here is that he's got to react to that back cut. And that's an important piece, because that's going to basically pull him into the paint, and then Raptors are immediately going to run a ball screen action to get him involved in the play. So he's sort of behind the 8 ball already. And now this is where it's going to take time. It's going to take some synergy between him and his teammates to develop the chemistry to know when to switch and do all these things. Because here, what you would like is, I think Ariel's actually making the proper read here. What you would want, though, is Achua to peel back and take Pirtle. This is a veer back switch tailor-made for Achua to peel back onto Pirtle. That's not a terrible mismatch, and then have Ariel Hukporti stay on a switch onto the ball handler. Both go with Brown, and then you get Pirtle getting all the way to the rim. So let's run it back again. You get 2 on the ball. That's not what you want, especially with an empty side on where Pirtle is coming. You have no one tagging. You really are exposed for this sort of dump off pass, and we get the ball fake, and Achua slaps down, and he gets called for the foul. Another ball screen. So again, the Raptors are testing Hukporti, putting him into these actions. Olynyk, of course, is a really good shooter, can play with the DHOs, versatile, handling the ball. Kind of a real test for Hukporti to guard in space out on the perimeter. So you get the DHO, and now you get the communication aspect in a positive way, where he's calling out the switch here. So he is actually, it's hard to see. I don't have the sound on for you, but he is making the call here for Deuce to switch this. So as the ball screen is set, Hukporti is now with Grady Dick. McBride probably a little late getting back onto Olynyk, but if you're the Knicks, you're probably okay with McBride defending Olynyk in space, but credit Olynyk here to put the ball on the floor, get into the short mid-range. Still, it's a low percentage shot that the Knicks are going to live with. Good communication, I thought, from Hukporti on that specific play. All right, so again, Hukporti, guarding in areas where he is just not accustomed to, so credit to him. And here's where you just see him engulf a basketball, and it's one of those athletic traits that you can't teach, but you're going to see him generate this rebound with one hand. Let me pull that back here as it stuttered a bit. Let's go. So Grady Dick shooting from 3, and then just with one hand, just takes the ball. He's got certain athletic gifts that are not teachable and that are highly, highly impressive. Now it's transitioning to the offensive end. And this was a tough lineup to sort of generate points, because you're dealing with obviously Brunson and McBride in the backcourt, but then you have Josh Hart, you have Achua, and then Hukporti. You got 3 non-spacers makes things very tough. So how do you manufacture points out of this lineup? Well, there's certain things bigs can do to free space up for their guards. And I like what Hukporti does here. So you get the rescreen, and it's right away, you just got to be impressive with how strong the screen is. But you get now this is technically illegal. His feet are planted outside his shoulders, which, any Knicks fan will tell you watching Bam Adebayo is by the letter of the law an illegal screen. Rarely called. So if you're set, your feet can be outside your shoulders in this manner. Makes the screen much tougher to navigate. So good screen by Hukporti, but then I love what he does here. You just see the paint. I mean, you have literally 3 Raptors inside. We're not guarding Josh Hart. Achua sort of in no man's land here. So what do you do if you're Hukporti to give Brunson a window here to get a basket? Well, what you could do is screen down on your man. And he effectively, with his awareness and his mass, moves Pirtle out of the action. And now Brunson doesn't have to worry about the shot blocker coming over, and he's able to finish it. There you go. There's the screen. Still a tough shot by Brunson. A lot of contact, probably should have been given the foul call, but I like that Hukporti was able to read that. This is a flow action. It wasn't likely something it was not a play call, but these are probably principles that the Knicks have tried to instill on him. Like, if you're in this position here and you can get a steal, it's almost like a Gortat screen in a sense. Gortat screens tend to be the roll man on the roll to the rim screening off, but this one is just sort of in the flow, knowing when to screen his own to give Brunson just that little extra room to get that floater off. Staying on the offensive end, Hukporti, again, Knicks asked their bigs to play out in this delay action, even ones that aren't necessarily high skill level. So Achua, Mitchell Robinson will be asked to do this. So you got to put the ball on the floor. You got to be able to execute these simple aspects to the game. Brunson 3, and then Hukporti is immediately crashing, and he's able to get inside position. The offensive rebounding, of course, for Knicks centers or Knicks bigs in general is a huge aspect to it. And one other way, as we talked about the spacing constraints of this particular lineup, even one now that with Bridges in the game for Josh Hart, you're still dealing with Achua and Hukporti. He's able to immediately read that he's got to get into the seal position. He's getting low leverage on Olynyk. Ball goes up, and he's immediately attacks the ball. So let's run that back one more time. You're playing out of your delay. Go under the screen. Brunson's going to shoot that every time, and then you just attack the basketball. Knicks don't score out of this action, but again, impressive offensive rebound to generate the positioning and then go and attack the ball. Rim protection. So I am I'm a little more reserved in the rim protection aspect to Hukporti right now. There's certain things that I think have been impressive. Like his shot blocking ability is very loud. He's an impressive athletic shot blocker. I'm a little wary of how he holds up as a anchor of a defense. He may be very strong in that area. I just haven't seen enough to be fully confident. But one thing you do like is some of his ability to weak side shot block or defend the rim outside his zone. And that's effort. That's, quick twitch ability athletically. But most importantly, probably just the motor and length to get over there. So on this drive by Barnes, it might not have deterred the shot that much, but it's just the ability to track the drive and just stay in the play. And maybe that throws Scotty Barnes off a little bit. Maybe instead of it being a 80% field goal percentage shot attempt, maybe he drops that to 72%. It's just those areas that are important over a long sample size. All right. So what do we have next? Staying on the offensive end. Now we're going to get a screen. Now, because Olynyk is playing up at the level here, And you can call it at the level or up to touch. This is basically screen and roll defense where you're playing at the level of the screen or up to touch. Those names tend to be synonymous. Olynyk literally has his hand on the back of Hukporti. That's an indication, if you're Hukporti, that they are playing this style of pick and roll defense, tend to be a little more aggressive than your typical drop. This type of defense is not going to work as well when you set that screen, because all you're doing is further clogging and mucking up the screening action. The goal of any screen is to get an advantage by your guard or get two to the basketball. So when you're playing up at the level or a more aggressive hedge or even of course a blitz, the advantage has already occurred. You're better off as a big at just getting out into space. So that's something that you have to read as a big. Hukporti reads it and just gets right into space and makes himself available. And I like the little finish with the right hand. Hukporti being left-handed, nice to see him have that ability to finish with his offhand. Again, screening at the defending at the level, just get into space. Olynyk obviously doesn't have great agility, not a lot of effort here to get underneath Hukporti here. So he stays on the high side. Bruce Brown doesn't show a lot of effort as a low man in that scenario, but a nice finish and just making yourself available by Hukporti. His defense on Scotty Barnes was really fantastic. This is really tough. So he's able to diagnose this, that he's got to get to the ball. He's probably a second late on it in terms of his pickup point. Even with that said, the fact that he is aware that that's his man, because you see this all the time where bigs, even if they've been tasked to guard a ball handler, tend to fall back on years of experience of getting to the rim. In this case, Cat is trailing the play. You can see, here's Cat. You can see where Hukporti would want to just get to the rim to get into position here, but he knows he has Barnes, and I just love the fact that he's able to athletically get into position here and then just stay on the hip of Barnes. He got into foul trouble in the previous game, but just the ability here, you're showing hands, you're not reaching in. This pickup here by Barnes is designed to get Hukporti to smack down on the basketball, and you get an and one or a foul call out of that. So good discipline by Hukporti to not fall prey to that, and then just contesting at the rim. And when he's contesting at the rim, it's 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. This is a lot to deal with if you're Scotty Barnes, and he just makes the shot tough. Just lower, you're not blocking it, but you're lowering the percentage of that shot attempt. Now, staying on the offensive end, and I started this session, but talking about Hukporti playing in the dunker spot and the advantage that he offers that Achua or Anunoby just don't have, and that's the ability to get up for lobs, dump offs, and finish with two hands. So here you're in the dunker spot. Olynyk comes over, and then this is just like as easy as it gets. But again, if you're paying to have a guy like that able to get up and get this ball, is a nice option to have out of this action. And Hukporti is a really strong finisher with two hands. Back on the defensive end, you gotta love this, right? Getting into a stance. This is as the balls of your feet. You're sitting in a stance and you're isolating Scotty Barnes one-on-one. And it's just on its face a lot to ask of your, big man, second round pick, 6'10", 250 pounds to be able to guard in space. But credit to the Knicks to empower him and to challenge him to guard. And that's just as good as it gets. You're contesting. Now he's left-handed, so maybe this is just how he would contest if the player was left-handed. But as a left-hand shot blocker, if he's primarily a left-hand, if he's contesting primarily with his left hand, you're going to get, in most cases, a right-hand shooter. So now you are right in line with the shooting release, and you are contesting as well as you can without fouling. I mean, that is a difficult mid-range shot. Low efficiency, no foul. You're not trying necessarily to block it, but you are contesting right at the release point. It's about as you can't play this any better without actually blocking the shot. Sitting in the stance, slide, contest. Perfect defense. Raptors ran a lot of big screening rolls with Kelly Olynyk handling. And listen, there's not a lot of teams that run these actions. It's not easy to guard. Now we're going to get some zoom action here. That's where you're coming over for you're coming off this pin down here into a DHO. So you're navigating this delay action if you're Ariel Hukporti. Now, he knows that Deuce gets screened off here. So I can go either way on this. Like the outcome, this is going to be a missed 3. But Deuce gets really picked off. I mean, it's a lot of space. Hukporti reads it and just jumps out to defend the 3. Now, maybe a better playmaking, more aware offensive player is just dumping this off to Scotty Barnes. Cat doesn't move, so it's a likely finish at the basket here. But you got to love the effort, and the athleticism to get at the shot release is really impressive. I just don't know if this is a little over helping, because you are leaving Scotty Barnes wide open. You could see him, Barnes, in the middle of the lane with his arms sort of out, like, how did you not find me there? But credit to Hukporti showing the athleticism to get out to defend that shot. Now, this is an interesting big-to-big passing scenario. So here's Cat getting in the lane, like this floater off 1 foot. Impressive move by Cat here. Love the screening for Cat in these actions. More of this, please. Just getting Cat as a ball handler downhill. Love that. Knicks haven't really tapped into it that often this year. I've seen it a few occasions. Would love to see more of it. It gives Cat a little bit of a alley to get downhill. Gets to his floater. Now gets his offensive rebound. And this is just a nice pass by Cat, and then really impressive pass by Hukporti we're talking about like making decisions all the time with like 0.5 seconds. So either shooting, passing, or dribbling, just quick decision making, right? I mean, to be able to see this pass, if you're Hukporti, is really impressive on target, and Bridge is able to finish it. Just good stuff. Here's where you wonder if Hukporti being your true backup 5, like will there be some drop coverage limitations that would be exploitable as a offense? So first, again, this is a big screening action, tough to guard. Olynyk at 6'11" can see over the top. Barnes is a big target at 6'9", 6'10". So this is not easy to navigate here, but you get Cat behind the play. Hukporti isn't able to get to the basketball here. And then I'm sure this is, because the Knicks have 2 smalls in the backcourt, it's either going to be Payne or McBride as your low man help here. Neither one has the size to get up and protect the rim here. So again, tough action to guard, but something to monitor. 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. It's really good length for most bigs, but as a center, it's maybe not what you prefer. Mitchell Robinson's wingspan. I don't know if I said standing reach 7'2", wingspan 7'2" for Hukporti. Mitchell Robinson wingspan about 7'4", 7'5", just a different level of length there. So as Olynyk makes that pass, Hukporti's not able to deflect that ball. More good action, I think, than bad defense, but still tough actions to guard here. Another miscommunication here, and I don't know if this one is on Cat, who was going through a bit of a eye issue here. So you could see him sort of looking at his hand. He's been, for about a minute and a half stretch, he was really dealing with his eye getting raked across. So maybe that played into it, but we're going to get Hukporti calling for a switch. Cat really doesn't react to it, and the Knicks are going to give up a wide open shot. So there's Hukporti calling for the screen. Cat stays with Barnes, and then it's a late contest, so basically a wide open shot by Olynyk. Now we're going to get more one-on-one defense here. Just you're taking the hit here from Barnes. Barnes didn't get him twice, and just watch how Hukporti is able to recover here. So you get downhill. You bump him off, nothing happens. Now you're going to reset the play. And again, Barnes going into the chest, basically throwing an elbow pretty high. I mean, that could have been probably called an offensive foul here, but Hukporti able to absorb it, gets knocked back a little bit, but then the shot contest with the left hand to make that turnaround an inefficient look. And Hukporti is this is a very strong individual, and this is just an occasion where his strength really was on display because Raptors have to get two of their wings on him to hold him off. And I mean, Hukporti really is able to do a number on Barnes. You can see Barnes after the play sort of try to work out his shoulder here, dealing with Hukporti on that box out. Sticking with we're still in the first half. Really, this is mostly going to be all first half highlights. He was that good in the game. In the second half, it was some lineup construction issues, and the Knicks didn't perform well with Hukporti in the game. I didn't think Hukporti looked as good in the second half. I think most of that was the lineup and the who he was playing with. So again, in the second half, good on-ball defense here by Bridges. Knicks are icing this. Bridges calls out the ice for Cat, pointing towards the sideline. Knicks do a good job of just trapping that, and now Cat getting back to Pirtle. So good athleticism effort by Cat to get back. Now we're in another ISO situation by Barnes because the Knicks took away the first action. One-on-one. I mean, you don't defend shots any better than how Hukporti is handling some of these Scotty Barnes pull-ups, able to contest, force a tear. I don't know if he got a piece of that, but a really impressive left-hand contest again by Hukporti. Now here's a one where we get some more weak side action here. So you get the initial switch, Knicks empowering again, Hukporti to switch out onto a wing player. And now Dick is able to get downhill, and a great job and awareness by Hukporti to slide over, keep his hands high. Vertical contest, forcing Grady Dick to finish around the length, arms high, both hands up in the air. And he just makes that a really tough contested layup. Sprints down court. Good motor by Hukporti to get back on the other end. Now here, he's guarding Scotty Barnes. So, like a willing shooter, but certainly not someone you are afraid of. But he's diagnosing the issue here as they get Pirtle getting a free run to the rim. You could see Hukporti already diagnosing that, despite his responsibility guarding Barnes in the weak side corner. But that is the sort of a version of the Luke Cornett defense where you are, probably 6-7 feet away from the shot. But I've talked about trying to disrupt the visual of the shooter many times, gets the early hands up, and maybe that impacts the shot a little bit. impacts the efficiency of that look. All right, so more Hukporti effort, running down, sprinting down court. Now he's in position in the dunker spot, and there's that two-hand finish again. Starts with the effort. So on this turnover, we're sprinting and we're rim running. Barnes has to help, and he's made himself available for the finish. All right. So as we get late in the second quarter, we're going to get a really impressive sequence here. So first, you get a late dump off pass to Barnes. Now we're in a post-up situation. We're taking the blow to the chest. We are not moving. We are staying strong. And that is, again, elite shot contest right at the shooting release. We're forcing the miss. Ball gets batted around again. Now we're guarding again. Now we're in an ISO. So we've defended the post up. Now we're defending in isolation. And we are getting right to the rim to block the shot. Now we've blocked the shot. And now we're just attacking and we're generating a loose ball recovery. So how many times are you going to witness a player in one possession defend a post-up as well as you could defend it? Now we're scrambling, and now we're guarding in ISO. We're getting into our stance. Crossover, but we're staying in the play. We're blocking the shot, and we're not stopping. Our motor continues, and we're getting that loose ball. It's as good as it gets if you're a big defending a player that has real offensive ability in Scotty Barnes. So you want to see signs when you're projecting a player of Ariel Hukporti's sort of resume. Like, is there enough signs here that you can foresee this player playing real minutes for you going down the stretch, potentially in the playoffs? Knicks have traded Jericho Sims. So if there was to be an injury to Mitchell Robinson or, God forbid, Karl-Anthony Towns, like, the Knicks are now relying on Hukporti to be the real, you want to call him the third string center or emergency center. Like, he's likely going to play real minutes for the Knicks the second half, potentially in the playoffs here. And I think that Toronto game gave the Knicks front office enough confidence that they can go and they can move Jericho out to maybe a better situation for him and maintain enough stability at the center position. That'll do it for this session for KFS. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. And if you're interested, head over to the Patreon page. We have the Brunson tier. So we'll have extra film sessions, mailbags, Benji's, enhanced grades, podcasts, all the things for you guys to check out. But until next time, this is DJ Zullo. Have a great day.